I was always under the assumption that after Maul's presumed death in The Phantom Menace, Sidious didn't put much faith into an apprentice until Vader. Maul seemed to know about many of Palpatine's larger plans when we catch up with him later on in Rebels. I was working through a transmission all about Kix, the oldest living clone, and one of a few who discovered the Order 66 plot before it happened. Dooku came up quite often, of course, but his knowledge never felt consistent. Let's get into it and figure out what really happened. As a Padawan, Dooku had premonitions about an Order 66 type event happening to the Jedi. The Jedi differ greatly on how much stock to put into visions such as this, and even Grand Master Yoda, with all of his wisdom, saying trying to respond to future events based on visions was something of the dark side. Dooku and Sifo-Dyas were friends. At least Sifo-Dyas believed so. After the clone army was ordered, an army created to save the Jedi and the Republic, Dooku killed his old friend so Palpatine could lay the groundwork for his ultimate plan. At this point, you can still argue that just because Dooku played a part, he may not have known everything. In Attack of the Clones, Dooku was trying to get Obi-Wan to join the side of the Separatists. Dooku had some respect for Obi-Wan as Qui-Gon Jinn was Obi's master and Dooku's Padawan. I always took this scene to be a half-hearted attempt on Dooku's part, not really wanting to admit that he went all in on being a bad guy, all while messing with Obi-Wan. There's a Legends novel that I can't find a source on despite searching for far too long, where this scene is explained as Dooku thinking once Sidious controls the galaxy, he, Dooku, will be in charge of reforming the Jedi Order. That's definitely an interesting thought. The book may be the Book of the Sith, but that doesn't feel right to me. The Clone Wars, a show created when Lucas was still in charge, has Dooku surprised when Tup, a clone trooper, has a malfunctioning inhibitor chip that leads to him killing a Jedi muttering, "Good soldiers follow orders." Dooku reports this to Sidious in a way that does more than imply Dooku knows a good deal of the larger plot. He wants to get his hands on the clone to see what happened to initiate Order 66 early. As a side note, he always tells the Kaminoans that Order 66 was just a contingency plan, a break glass in case of emergency, but in the series, Dooku is very much in on it. In Tales of the Jedi, another animated series, this one was created after Lucas sold the company, but Dave Filoni, a creator I and many fans have a lot of faith in, oversaw this entire series. There's a story of Dooku reporting back to Sidious that his orders had been carried out and the inhibitor chips would be put into all clones. This is more in line with what I thought their relationship was. Dooku being told just enough to get him to do Sidious's bidding without ever being brought into the fold and told everything. This isn't a universe-breaking continuity issue. How much Dooku knew or didn't know doesn't change the ultimate outcome. The inconsistency could be explained away with Palpatine telling Dooku about it later. Maybe some major event like Tup killing the Jedi early put Dooku on the case and he uncovered the truth. The Legends book can easily be put aside. I love a ton of the Legends stories, but no matter how much we like them, they aren't canon. Sorry. The issue to me is that the Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi are canon, and are overseen by Filoni, who is now the chief creative officer. Filoni has said smaller details being inconsistent aren't the end of the world. I believe the example he gave when talking with the incredible Sam Witwer was a character having a different colored lightsaber in one story or another. This actually isn't a huge deal, as you can see in a universe as immense as the Star Wars one, that the story was becoming more myth than fact. But someone not knowing a huge plot point like Dooku's knowledge is an entirely different issue. As with all things Star Wars, if there's a George Lucas explanation, then that is the correct one. So I would say that Dooku knows at least by the time the Clone Wars is nearing the end and Tup's chip malfunctions. I always thought Dooku was in it for himself. I never saw him as a true believer. I never saw him as an actual Sith Lord. I saw him as somebody who was born into a prestigious family, who had a lot of wealth and stuff that he left behind to join the Jedi Order. When he learned what he thought he needed from the Jedi Order, he wanted to go back and have the best of both worlds. He had the power, he could control the Force, but he could also be a Count. Count is not his name, that's a title. He's from a wealthy family. He claims his birthright while still wanting to be the guy with the Force. When Sidious came along and promised him even more power, something that he would have been very interested in since wealth was no longer an issue, he went for it. This is really my own speculation, things I've put together from reading a lot of Dooku stories. It is not necessarily canon, that's just my feelings on the man. So with something like this, on him being left in the dark, that's kind of the version of the story that I like a little bit more. I would think that Palpatine would see through this kind of transparent pretender and use him him as a tool, only giving him enough to keep him going along. But as I said, the George Lucas version of any story is the true version in my eyes. Check out this transmission next for more of my thoughts and theories on the Star Wars universe.